But you did. You said a couple things that were wrong. So
You took them very literally and very.
Have you met me?
I'm learning something new about you. Okay, so last week we found out what happens when you get two contrarians to sit down together in a video, which is I would throw out this concept of storycraft just to give us a jumping off point to discuss it, and that's when you were like, no, absolutely not, I hate this idea and you're wrong. And that summoned my inner contrarian, and then we had just this, it was like pulling teeth as we were in a car that was spinning its wheels in mud. But it was really fun, and we had really good engagement, and I enjoyed it. And I learned a lot about what I get out of writing as well, what I look for in stories personally.
And you learned the hero in a short story does not need to change.
Doesn't need to change. I agree with this actually. Doesn't need to change. Yeah. Yes.
Especially not in a short story.
I agree with this. Yeah, I think I was just battening down because you were coming so hard from your angle, which is what I do. But hi, Bubbles.
I hate to tell you this, but that wasn't coming hard at all.
It was very absolute. I will say that. It was very absolute, which is probably maybe like your baseline normal. We can consider that as well. But we're ignoring the fact that we have our special guest of the week, which is Jesse A. Barrett.
Jesse is a treasured member of Rac Chat Press and author of his own right.
Yes, you have 14 titles on Amazon, 7 of which are Rac Chat Press.
Yes, that sounds right. 13, one of those is a duplicate from the best stuff.
Yes.
Oh.
So you've got bragging rights right there. That counts as a whole other publication.
Yeah, convincing all of the writers and then slipping it past Ben made me reach out to you, I think, to make sure he was okay.
Since the next several episodes we're devoting to, how do you put it?
Elements of story, storycraft, whatever you want to call it. Whatever you want to call it.
We're going to call it.
I'm not going to label anything too hard for Ian because he gets upset.
I do not get upset. Trust me, if I got upset, you'd know it.
We do.
Well, he just has very strong opinions.
As a senior NCO should. Right, Mike?
I'm not taking sides in this. But before we go on,
I would like to clarify one thing we just talked about just a second ago. Just because
Bubbles is a demon in feathers?
No.
Okay.
So we got very caught up in just how intensely we take a concept. And it's important to bat them around, first of all, to tease out, what we think about these concepts. But it's important not to get too locked in on one thing. I think especially baby authors, and I saw this a lot with my own writing students, whether it was fiction or nonfiction, they'll hear advice maybe from someone they admire, like Law Dog, right? And Law Dog is sitting here saying, you need to have someone being punched in the face in the first line of the story, right?
Your protagonist needs to verb somebody in the first several paragraphs.
Yes.
For a short story.
Or for giving a line.
Yes, and that's because you've had entries where there's 18 pages of exposition.
18 pages describing the atmosphere of a moon.
Yes. Yeah. But for instance, your MHI story begins with your main protagonist sipping coffee on a Texas morning.
Correct.
So she's not necessarily punching anybody in the face just yet.
She's verbing something.
She's sipping her coffee. So
right. I think the point is she's doing something.
Yes.
There's an action. It doesn't have to be violence.
Correct.
But the point I would like to make here as well is take everything with a grain of salt. Make your choices in your writing active and specifically serving your story. Don't do something just because someone told you to 5 years ago and you're not entirely sure why when questioned.
Okay, when I say
that's important.
When I say your protagonist needs to verb something in the first several paragraphs. Yes, but setting that aside, make your storycraft yours. If I pick up a Jesse Barrett story, I know in the first paragraph Jesse wrote that. Because
Still not sure that's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's a good thing.
If I pick up a Spearman Burke story, I know within the first page it's a Spearman Burke story because they are taking the guidelines and folding, spindling, and mutilating them into matching them. That being said, have your protagonist verb something in the first couple of paragraphs.
I agree.
Well, it's more interesting.
Who are our characters?
They should be doing something.
It's a short story. You don't have time
Even if
for
it's
exposition.
Well,
lighting a cigarette or walking down the street, they should be doing something that makes the reader go,
Verbing.
"Oh, okay, what are they doing? What's going on here?" You know,
because if you make your protagonist verb something, do an action, that immediately yanks you out of 5,800 words of exposition in an 8,000 word short story.
And you know what's great about that? Who are our characters but their actions? You don't need to have all this exposition because we get to know them by what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You can skip all that crap by just showing how they behave.
For your exposition, okay, what we'll get into here in a bit.
Did we just agree?
We can edit that out later.
What we're going to get into later is Jesse Barrett turned in a Kermit the Frog homage for a sword and sorcery short story, which our author, or which our editor for that volume, absolutely it was enthralled by. Okay. I've said before, when you get to exposition, let the title of the anthology provide most of your exposition. It's sword and sorcery. There's your exposition. Punch somebody in the face. Mike is looking.
Or in the case of that story, kick the entire audience in the child.
Kick him in the child. I like that. I like that. Mike
So
is looking at the
when the first thing that happens is he sorts his classic sword and sorcery trope. Hero walks into town, his horse is dead, a day's walk behind him. Well, in this case, his horse Artak fell in the quick mud and
oh, I just got my old Gen X heart kicked right dead square in the gooblies.
This is a never-ending story pastiche here. Oh my God.
It might have started out with one.
Oh,
it's classic.
That's
a trio. Okay. Anyway,
I haven't seen that in so long.
Right in the googlies. Ouch. So, anywho, where were we?
We were disagreeing about the fact that we just agreed. But
keep us on track, Lisa.
Okay, fine. All right. So, Jesse, what elements of story would you like to talk about? We talked about maybe heroes making sacrifices. We've got character background and baggage.
Ian immediately folded his arms.
You are not feeling it. So you're not really, you are very much more, you prefer plot to character. That's very apparent.
Nope, he's going to disagree with that.
No, he's going to disagree with that. So we just tell him the opposite of what we want to actually discuss.
I don't know that I can agree or disagree because I really don't know the difference between plot and character.
Ooh.
I don't.
What do you think, Jesse? The viewers at home.
Yeah, you're the
I think
guest.
he signs my check. What was that? No, it comes down to what story are you telling?
I'm sorry.
It comes down to what story are you telling. In the example that's come up with the red and the green, it's very much old school sword and sorcery. I mean, if you read a Conan story at the beginning, the middle, and the end, the only difference is going to be where he is and what's ass he's kicking. Conan did not change much across the arc. Even in the longer stories where there is active character development, like a 90s sitcom, it resets nearly to zero by the time he finishes drinking and winching up whatever spoils he got.
Well, Tarzan was the same way.
Yeah. And a lot of the early pulp stuff dealt with characters that were more or less static, but that which has placed
Conan does
different
two
situations
change.
each time.
He's a thief, a reaver, then a slayer, then a king. Yeah.
Along.
Oh,
But regardless of
No.
what movie was stealing from and killing, he was Conan.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still a landmark character. Everybody knows him.
No, I'd agree. I tend to agree that the whole hero's got to change thing is a bit,
Well,
used up.
I tend to think that people get the rules, quote unquote, for novels and think that those same rules apply to shorts when they don't.
Right.
Oh no.
And rules for shorts most of them don't apply to novels. And I think that's one of the places that we're hitting the washboard is trying to apply the novel rules to short stories. I tend to think.
I will actually agree with that. And
I think the reason I was making such a case for change last week is because I need that in my own writing, because you have to live with your story for however many weeks you're writing it. I get bored if I don't have that, but I realize that not everybody needs that.
Well, and the change in the story overall, okay, doesn't need necessarily to be in the character, right? Sometimes the inciting incident, quote unquote, is an event that happens that causes the real beginning of the story, right? It's an incident from which we cannot go back to the status quo. And the change is perhaps that the world is a little different at the end of the story. Now, there are exceptions to this, right? Like, well, Conan is always Conan. Sitcoms are classic, right? Mm-hmm. The sitcom layout is there's an inciting incident, but by the end of the show, 20, 30 minutes later, the world is reset back to the way it was.
Reset to zero, baseline zero.
Yeah, which is how sitcoms work, but that's not necessarily a short story. But
yeah, it is.
No, I mean what we're looking for in short stories, not necessarily.
Okay.
Because we're not writing a serial, right? Like we don't have a collection of Kermit the Frog the Barbarian stories.
Yeah.
It's not easy being Cimmerian. Anyway.
Hey, this is Kermit. Or Kermit, not Kermit. He is not that rainbow chasing teller of tales, singer of songs.
He's not the copyrighted
intellectual property. He's also not the one defended by the army of $1,000 an hour attack women.
Waka waka.
Fazili the player is also present, yes. And in the next story, he is currently sitting on a stolen boat, looking over to the side to see if the bubbles have stopped yet.
You need to
make go on an awful long time.
You need to come up with a couple of old wizards that are the antagonists, right?
Standing in the balcony of their tower.
Yeah, who say all these smart remarks and curse him all the time.
Unfortunately, I stumbled across a graphic of a very red barbarian with an axe, with two wizened heads hanging off it, and his rat companion. So there might be other heroes in this world.
No, you do you, Jesse. I'm just throwing stuff out there.
Wasn't one of the first stories you submitted Rack Press so full of puns that somebody...
Oh, no, not puns in that case. And allow me for a moment to promote my Substack. This story recently got re-released into the wild for Thanksgiving. And apparently, despite the fact I thought I was as subtle as a flagpole, one of our editors did not see the punchline coming until literally the last line of the story. And I have been bribing her to remain unshivved ever since. So, you want to see what happens to a science fiction or a pop culture classic when it gets adapted to science fiction via me? There'll be a link to my Substack in the comments.
Okay.
Which we will link down below when we release
Somebody
the video.
will.
Yes.
Somebody
Speaking
will.
of Substack, folks, if you would donate to Raconteur Press's Substack so that we can purchase Lisa a booster seat so she doesn't disappear off the screen. Sit up straight. Yeah.
Y'all may not know this, but Lisa is very small. I would say tiny, but apparently that's just rude.
No.
Okay. She is very small.
I'm aware of my smallness.
I feel like Magilla the gorilla sitting here.
Don't let that fool you. Once she is comfortable, she very much.
She's sitting on her feet.
Butt.
Yeah.
I'm sitting on my butt. She's sitting on her feet.
I have to.
Booster seats.
Yeah, we would appreciate that very much because it's also very cold here.
I had no idea you. I had no idea you were sitting on your feet. That's
and
great.
It entertains you so intensely.
Oh, I love it. Oh.
We employ all sorts.
Yes.
I'd say you don't have to be crazy to work here, but I've met most of the staff, and yeah, you do.
Yeah. If you're not, you will be after the indoctrination.
So, Lisa, what other storytelling elements does Ian hate?
Let's find out. Yeah.
Hey.
Okay. Let's see. Do y'all want to talk about character background and baggage? Because what we do, your face says no. Okay. Because I was thinking this. I think it's fun to play with, again, character is not a thing. It's not a hot topic for today. Do you want to come back to that later?
We've got several episodes down the road. We can come to it along there.
All right. But the idea there is playing with how your background is going to affect how you're reacting to something in the moment and how that's going to kind of
how the author's background or the character's background?
The character's background, whatever you write into their background story, how that's going to affect how they react and perceive something that's happening in the present scene that could be to their advantage or disadvantage.
For a short story, you don't really have enough time for much of a background.
I'll argue with
you don't have to.
What do you think, Jesse?
Go ahead, Jesse.
It doesn't have to be an extended thing. Literally a throwaway line or two.
Right.
Or, this happened there. Some reference to the larger world establishes there's more going on, and this situation is familiar or not. But it does not have to be an involved Weber-esque info dump.
It can't be. Again, you're working with 5,000 to 8,000 words.
Talking short stories. Yeah.
Short people talking short stories. I was thinking in particular, Mike, your Mercs and Mayhem story. Your character has a background, but you don't waste time on it.
No, you can't.
Yeah. Well, and it's okay. It's okay if I know something about that character's background that the reader never discovers. Right? You know what I mean? And
sometimes you need that to write the short story to get you to that point where you can write it.
Yeah. Well, and you and I were talking about that actually, and you had me added a little line in there at the beginning about how he was always prepared, because I kind of imply it, but I don't ever specifically say he does these things because he's learned to be ready in any given situation, right?
Yes, because your final, and you have a great ending with your character, but something was bothering me about it when I first read it. I was like, why am I not like convinced? Like it didn't like hit all the right notes to me. And that's because I realized it felt like we hadn't earned that final moment.
Right.
And we had a really cool phone conversation. I called him like some Sunday, like weeks and weeks ago. And I was like, this is what seems to be missing. And we kind of hashed it out. There's kind of that idea of earning certain elements of your story or your character. Like you have to you don't want something to be just a total surprise to your reader.
Right.
You know, because it almost feels like you're sort of cheating, like, and then they have these magic tiger skills. You have to kind of get these kind of previews in the story a little
Here's
bit
a great example of what I'm talking about. My wife and I over the weekend watched this show. Is it on Peacock? I can't remember what streaming service, but it's a show called It's All Her Fault or All Her Fault. And it's kind of plays itself as a story about a kidnapping, but it's really not about the kidnapping. It's really good because it tricks you into thinking it's about this thing, but really the story is much greater. Anyway, there's a character who's a detective in the story, and he's very honorable, noble character. He's doing the right things. He's like there's a lot of jerks in this show, and he's like one of the few good guys. But at some point, he's got a special needs son that he wants to get into a special school, and someone from the faculty basically calls him and says, look, if you can take care of this, administrator's son's been arrested for Xanax, carrying drugs. If you can make that go away, your kid will get into the school. Okay. And at first he's very angry because he doesn't want to compromise himself, but then he decides that his son needs this school because he can't take care of him like that. So he compromises himself. And at first I was a little disappointed in him, but that situation actually sets up why he does something else at the end of the story and makes it make sense that he makes a decision that he makes later on.
It reveals something about the character.
Right. Well, and it's just a little thing. He does this thing, you learn about him. But then when he does this major thing later, you're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense because he would do that. Right.
And if they hadn't shown that compromise early, you wouldn't be convinced by that final big reveal. Basically, you'd be like, well, that came out of nowhere. It's a cheap shot, basically. So you kind of, it's how you build to your climax that you can really play with like that.
And you're leaving those little clues so you can lay it out later. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You never want your reader to be surprised on a second read. It still comes out of nowhere the second time. You didn't set it up correctly.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You have to lay some groundwork if you want to build up to that final thing. I'm convinced by because otherwise it's just kind of a hodgepodge.
Well, yeah. Well, you can't have. I don't know. A story is not a series of events happening to the character.
Right.
Yes.
That's not a story.
That's real life.
That's life, which we want to get away from as far as we can.
To read about that.
Nobody does. That's why Rac Chat Press exists.
That's why we read.
That's why we're here. What was that?
I Dream of Jeannie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was just... I don't actually know anything about my character's backstories till it comes out somewhere in the story.
Because we reveal who we are with our actions.
Or what you need for a given story, even if you're dealing with a reoccurring character. Library anthology. I had no idea that my volunteer assistant librarian shot sporting clays or spoke construction Spanish. But it made sense in the story.
I was just thinking, for the MHI story, I didn't realize there was some Appalachia until I wrote it in there. So.
Oh yeah. Well, I remember talking about that with you because there was a thing about you and I were chatting about it because there was something about her. Yeah. Well, you were stuck, and then we were trying to come up with a reason why she would have insight into.
Well, it's why she had the bog oak. It was
right.
She had bog oak, and my the reason that I had for to be holding a stick of bog oak was totally wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So we were batting it around, and then all of a sudden it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, and we came up with the idea that she's descended from like a line of cunning folk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And then I remember talking about Louis Moore and the original Sackett, I can't remember his name, the first Sackett book, he talks about how that guy is descended from a line of druids.
Cunning
and
folk,
that's why he has insight sometimes, like he gets these gut feelings and he attributes it to his druid heritage, giving him an ability to see
and I think he
beyond.
actually calls it cunning folk in at least a couple of the stories. That's where I took that term from.
Right. That's the term. That's the American folklore term is, you know, you're not really a doctor, but you're one of the cunning folk. You know things, you know, not in a regular, a lot of regular people don't know. But that just adding that little thing made sense about why she would do
what she,
know,
why she had the bog oak.
Right.
As Ben Yellow says, real life doesn't have to make sense, but your stories have to make sense.
Yeah, they do.
Your stories have to make sense.
No. And I can tell you that for true. The stories I tell that are dead nuts on what actually happened line for line, nobody believes. Law enforcement stories that are dead and that do not vary from what actually happened, nobody will believe. I have to go through I have to tweak every one of my stories just so people will believe them.
I'm trying to imagine Marshall Gunner Knox in a space cowboy story in a pink gorilla suit. It would never happen. No one would buy that story.
The ridiculous is perfectly acceptable if it fits the story.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about the difference between you taking something over the top and me taking something over the top. And I honestly wish I could do something more like the King Calamitous stuff. That is massive, over the top, pure cheese in absolutely all the best ways.
Cheese,
it's a fine
glorious Gouda. Cheese.
And it's like, I can't do that. I'm not sure Mike could write a story about a wooden, steam-powered, Richard-shaped spaceship built by nuns and orphans.
Nope. Probably not going to happen.
So
I barely wrote a story that qualified as steampunk as it is, right?
Hey, I managed to sell SF as steampunk, so that worked too.
I wrote a steampunk story about British Royal Marines on an airship dirigible. Steampunk.
Yeah, I had to go back and reread that one to make sure I wasn't lifting elements of it for one of mine. Got kicked back twice. Thank you very much.
Which very much ties into the Rac Chat Press thing of don't stick too hard to the rules.
Use them as guidelines and do your thing.
I don't believe in that much in genres. I do believe there are genres, but I don't believe they're as granular as people say they are.
Yeah,
genre is where it belongs on the shelf.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're pulp. That's everything. Except grimdark, which I don't send me a grimdark story. And don't even think about it, Mike. I see that grin.
pulp is all about the action.
Yeah. And again, there are certain rules to pulp. The bad guy should lose in one way or another. But give us action, and it has to be entertaining. Done.
Yeah. Good guys should be good. They can be tarnished minds, but they need to be trying to do the right thing.
Right. Well, that's why I talk about heroes making sacrifices. Like, if they're trying to do the right thing,
right,
it should hurt a little bit. And that's what I mean by making sacrifices. Like, the easy route is to not do the right thing, right?
Yes.
The hard route is to do the right thing often, and that hurts a little bit. And that's what I mean by about making sacrifices.
And you can have that kind of also fun with that temptation at the end, maybe he has to make a choice between that easier self-serving thing. You can have it all, or you can do the right thing, which is really gonna hurt. But
no, and I like that as the crisis, right? That's
it's
the
the crisis. Yes, yes.
You know,
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Yeah, because then you
Ian agreed with
conflict.
us. Stop the video. Stop
and we're
the
at 30
video.
minutes.
We're at 30 minutes. Ian has agreed with everything we've said.
Everything? Everything?
You're sitting next to Kermit. I don't know what to tell you.